Hi, and welcome to Morbid Movies. This week we are doing the 1997 film Spawn. So,
Yeah,
um, hi, Dom, and we've got a guest this time.
we do have a special guest. We didn't talk about this with Jim beforehand, but Jim, how do you want to introduce yourself? We've known each other for a long time. You have a silky, sexy voice. You've got great bone structure, and your hair is incredible. Look at that, what is it, silver fox, we would say in the UK. You've got the greys. You've got the black hair. It's just great. You just look
Mhm.
good. That's my intro for you. How do you want to introduce yourself?
I mean, I don't think I can top that. So I'll just like to say, hey, hi everyone. Thanks for inviting me here. I appreciate it. And yeah, just happy to be here.
Yeah, well, we invited you because obviously we go back quite a long way, but also most of my quality film taste comes from you in some form and doing, I think it was existentialism and film,
Mm-hmm.
looking
Yep.
at films like Dark City, which was the first ever film we did on this podcast because
Yep.
of your introduction. So yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to bring you on because of your knowledge of film. Although little bit problematic that we've brought you on for possibly the worst CGI ever used in film,
Yeah. Yep.
but the best soundtrack ever used in film as well, in my opinion. Spawn, Jim, as you are the special guest, what are your thoughts on this? I can't imagine this is a film that you've watched any time in recent years. I imagine you've probably seen it once and then left it far in the past, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, so I saw this movie when it came out back in 1997. I was 13 when it came out, and I thought it was awesome. I watched it recently. I did not think it was awesome. I don't think this is a good movie at all. It's incredibly clunky in terms of like the dialogue and the story structure. It's short, but it feels like it's 2 hours long. It's just overall, I think it's a mess. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's bad enough to actually enjoy it. So,
I see. I always felt like it was so bad it's good. That's kind of
mhm.
how I felt about it, and I think they're remaking it too. I think they're going to do a remake of it. It's certainly in kind of was it development hell as they call it at the moment.
Yeah.
They're trying to recast it, but there are some wonderful facts about this film, and I want to particularly shout out John Leguizamo for his performance and some of the method acting he's done on this film. Mary, what was it like, Mary, for you to go back into Spawn after again what I would imagine to be a fair chunk of time?
Oddly, I think I watched this maybe a year ago because it just happened to be on streaming and I had forgotten how bad it was. But watching it again, I kind of had fun just because I knew I was in for a bad time. So I just kind of laughed the whole way through this thing. Um, because, yeah, Jim said it's the dialogue is clunky. The CGI is, what, maybe PlayStation 2 worthy
Yeah.
graphics. It just, like, the devil's mouth doesn't even move when he speaks. And, with, it just dreadful all around. So, I kind of went in with that mystery science theater mindset and just had a good time by myself because no one else wanted to watch it with me.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about it and bring it back into people's consciousness. There was a great cartoon which I recently started rewatching that came out around the same time, or maybe a bit before, that
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane had something to do with, and I would certainly recommend that people go and watch that because that was fantastic. And like I say, they are thinking about bringing it back. So in the comments, anybody that does see this, do you want to see a Spawn remake? I guess that is the question. But Mary and Jim, what then if you, because you both said it's not a great film, what did you like most about it? Let's go with Jim first and then move to Mary. What did you enjoy? If you had to really pull
Mhm.
out something out of this, what would you say that you enjoyed?
I mean, I think Spawn looks awesome. I mean, one of the reasons the character was so popular back in the day was because his look is just fantastic. Especially when he has the cape on and it's just massive and flowing. The CGI is spotty on the cape too, but at least conceptually he looks really cool. They also keep taking off his mask for some reason, and I don't understand why. Like, just leave that thing on. But also I think John Leguizamo just threw himself into the role.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about that in a minute because I think the method acting in this film needs a little bit of celebration because John Leguizamo and Michael J. White both did some pretty extreme stuff for this, according to our notes. Mary, what did you enjoy most about this film then?
Yeah, I mean, I think in addition to Spawn definitely does look cool. I think there are some kind of nice set pieces in this, like that set that has like the spiral staircase outside, and it's all very like dark and grim and kind of 90s goth. It has that like evil city vibe to it. Like I really enjoy that, and it's a shame that some of the physical sets are so nice when you contrast it with how awful the early CGI really is. I think if this film had leaned more into practical effects and set pieces, it probably would have been better. But and again, yeah, just Joe Leguizamo, the way he really put more effort into the part he had than the film deserved overall, I think just like kind of makes him shine.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was my major, takeaway from your research and from doing my own research as well. I mean, one of the facts that we came out with was Leguizamo actually ate live waxworms on the pizza on that scene and then vomited them immediately back up, which is pretty nuts. And then obviously 2.5 hours in makeup and prosthetics to wear the cloud suit. I believe he actually soiled himself. I think that's in the DVD
Yeah,
extras.
I had naively assumed for many years that they did some amazing special effects to make it look like he ate worms for that film, and like had refused to even consider that that might be real. And like, I think that I have a lot of respect for him because you could not. There's no amount of money you could pay me to get me to eat a slice of pizza covered in worms.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, of course, Michael J. White, I believe he was actually set on fire for
Mm-hmm.
that scene. I mean, again, shoddy CGI aside, that's some pretty big commitment. I'm not sure. I don't know if Jim, from your vast film knowledge, and Mary, from your knowledge, is there? I mean, there are obviously other method actors that are known for that, of course, and known for really throwing themselves into the role. But is this the more extreme end of method acting in your experience? Let's go with Jim first, and then go to
I
Mary.
mean, in terms of stunts, yeah, certainly being set on fire is extreme. I wouldn't necessarily call that method acting though. It's I mean, I don't think he was, pretending to be Spawn offset,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like,
good point. Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean, in terms of stunt work, I mean, yeah, lighting yourself on fire is definitely extreme because you can get seriously hurt doing that.
I do think that really stands out. I mean, the pizza thing, for what commitment it took, that is one of the defining moments I would say of the film. That people remember is Leguizamo actually eating those live maggots, and of course, being set on fire is the effectively the transition that Michael J. White goes through to become Spawn. So kind of, I don't know, iconic is probably a little bit of a stretch, but certainly two really key scenes in the film. Mary, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just like I am impressed with the dedication of the performers in this film because I think it could have been very easy to just walk in and not take this
Mm.
seriously, or refuse to eat the bugs or refuse to get set on fire. These are definitely like, I don't think I'm dedicated enough to any job to be willing to do that. But
Yeah.
uh I don't know, I guess that's all I've got though for this. Is I'm just impressed with the
Yeah,
dedication. You
yeah.
couldn't pay me enough.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, I think again, when I went back to watch it, I was like, those are the scenes that have kind of stayed with me over the years, and I was like, oh yeah, of course that is the transition into Spawn for Michael J. White, and of course, it kind of shows you the disgusting nature of the clown or the violator, as this character is termed, because he's willing to eat a pizza with maggots on. Not to focus too much
But
on
he
that.
doesn't like the anchovies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It takes them off. Yeah, of course, of course. Like I say, in terms of some of the facts that we came up with, for this, what is it that you think has led to its cult status? Then again, I look at it as a bad film that is kind of so bad it's good. And I think that tends to be. I think it's getting a 4K re-release this year. There's just been a trailer dropped on YouTube for it. So clearly there's still an audience for it. It's been extremely successful commercially following the poor box office reception. Again, Jim was there originally back in '97. what would you attribute that to, Jim? You know, is this the instance of people just wanting to watch terrible films? I mean, I still think it's amazing that The Human Centipede is as popular as it is. That's one of the worst films I've ever had to lay eyes on in my life. But people seem to love it. Twisted, weird people. But why is it that you think Spawn, as bad as it was, still has the reputation? Is it because of Todd McFarlane? Is it because of the character of Spawn? Very popular comics, very popular figures, that kind of thing. He's more of a pop culture icon, I would say. I don't know if what your thoughts are on that, Jim.
I mean, well, I didn't even know there was a cult following for this film. I haven't heard anything about it for, well, how old is this now? Almost 20 years,
Yeah.
28 years. Yeah, I really haven't heard anything about this film since I saw it in theaters. But I do think that Spawn as a character and as a cultural icon is iconic. He is popular, because he looks so cool. The comics themselves are actually kind of meandering and they just kind of, go off in all these different tangents and the story doesn't really, it's not really concise and to the point. But Spawn endures because he looks cool. And I think that's also why the comic sold so many issues because it was one of the best-selling comics early in the 90s. And it's just you look at the cover, you go, oh, that looks cool.
Yeah, yeah,
And go and you watch it. And, I think that if there is kind of an enduring audience, I think that's kind of part of why.
yeah. No, I would certainly agree with that. Mary, anything to add on that point?
I think that this film, in so much as it does have a following, benefits from the fact that any kind of reboot has been in production hell for decades. And so, if you want to watch like a live action Spawn film, you don't have a choice. This is the only thing you've got. If they can ever manage to get a new reboot off the ground that's better done, I think people will start to kind of forget this as like just sort of a campy footnote, like sort of how we mostly ignore the old Batman TV series from the 60s at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do think it benefits from like just there not having been a repeat film as of yet.
Yeah, do you think I'll just sort of shoehorn this point in? Obviously, we saw the release of the remake loosely of The Crow this past year, which was universally panned, and obviously there was a lot of buzz around a remake, and people have been wanting to do it. That was in development hell for so long, and then of course what came out was this kind of modern reinterpretation, which to old goths like us, and I throw you in there, Jim, as well with us, one of us. I do think that this could go the other way as well, where they bring out this new film, and actually, I mean, the CGI could be amazing, and obviously the effects could be great. But do you think there's any possibility that because this has such a, again, Jim doesn't think so, but because there may be such a cult following, that we could see the reverse, and actually whatever they come up with pales in comparison to how popular the original is.
I personally don't think they could do worse than this. So I think anything that comes out is going to be better.
Okay, fair enough. Again, we'll throw that one out to the community. Of course, we appreciate anybody's support checking this out. In terms of facts that you came up with, Mary, I just want to highlight a few. When you look at the cast that was originally, or the people that were sort of originally looked at, so your Wesley Snipes, of course, popular guys at the time. Snoop Dogg was originally in line. Samuel L. Jackson. I really like Michael J. White, and I think he's underrated. Of course, he had a good turn in The Dark Knight and a Black Dynamite, of course, as well. Do you think he was the right choice when you consider some of these other actors? Will Smith also in there, Tupac Shakur as well. Denzel, the mighty Denzel Washington, who is still incredible in my view. Do you think would you sort of dream cast any of these other people in that role, and would they have done it better? Let's go with Jim first, because you were there back in the day and obviously have revisited it for this podcast. So would you have sort of dream cast anybody else in this role over Michael J. White?
I mean, well, when you look at some of the actors that were listed there, I think some of them are unreasonable just because of the budget constraints. Like, are you going to pay Denzel Washington $20 million to be in this movie when the budget's 40 million? I mean, how much less could they spend on the CG? So, it would be, so I think he was fine, Michael J. White. And maybe a better actor would have brought more to the role. But again, he didn't have much dialogue in the movie. He was basically reacting to a lot. There was a lot of really just him screaming or just, sitting in the corner brooding or things like that. So I'm not sure how much more an experienced actor would bring to this role.
Hmm.
Something I do think is disappointing with casting him is that they didn't use enough of his martial arts background. Like there were a few scenes where you could tell that he knew what he was doing. He had some pretty good kicks in the movie, but instead of actually fighting anyone, he's just going around and shooting them. So I think that he would have been better cast had they actually had some good fight sequences in the movie with him.
Yeah, yeah, it was very much known for that as well, like you say. So, interesting point. Mary, would you have cast anybody else in this?
I want to say, like, first of all, I don't think that casting is the problem with this film. It's definitely the writing that is the problem. And I agree with the points about not utilizing the actors to their fullest for sure. The only thing is, when I read this, I started picturing Samuel L. Jackson doing this film, but in like a snakes on a plane kind of style, and like that's probably not a good film, but it's extremely funny to picture.
Yeah,
Um, but I think that it just Michael J. White just wasn't utilized to the fullest and was the victim of some of the worst film dialogue because he spent most of the film when he had a line basically yelling, "I'm gonna nail this guy," kind of
Mhm.
lines, which were just not. I was like trying to think back to all of the like action dad films I remember from the '90s, kind of thing, because my dad watched a lot of that stuff too, and I'm going, even by '90s standards, it's bad action film dialogue.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. No,
I can't blame the cast for it.
Well, no, I mean, one of the reasons that I think the dialogue is so weak, and going back to that, like I'm going to destroy him or whatever he said, it's they're basically taking a rated R concept, the comics being extremely violent and extremely graphic, and they're trying to like PG-13ify it so that you can get young teenagers in there to go see the movie. And like how many times did John Leguizamo say buttocks in the movie? Like it's just they're just trying to force in this PG-13 dialogue. I mean, and they could have gone a little bit worse with it. Like, instead of buttocks, you can't say ass in PG-13 movies, but they are trying to sensitize it to a degree, and it sounds really bad.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And like I say, going back, just listening to you talk about it, some of the dialogue was very cringy, very it was probably geared to you, in your sort of teenage years, even though again there's that age rating there, it was for, and it probably still remains for people, sort of teenagers and students who get high in their dorm rooms and want to have a nice, a laugh at how terrible it was. It's one of those films that people go, "This is so bad. We've got to check it out just to remember how bad it is." And the dialogue is probably the best example of, again, as Mary says, poor writing there. Um, Two facts that I wanted to bring to your attention on record was obviously that this I believe it's the third major comic book movie led by an African American character, which I think is worth noting. I believe the first is Meteor Man, and that's 1983, and the second is Blank Man. Um, I know neither of those films were actually based on comic books. But yeah, Mary, you were the one that found that fact, and I thought it was really interesting and worth bringing up. Because again, so it's quite significant, even though it was even though yeah, we're pretty much panning this film and saying it's terrible. Significant sort of cultural fact there, Mary.
Yeah, I found that interesting and kind of jarring because it hadn't occurred to me how recently we started seeing African American leads in films that were targeted towards a more general audience. And I don't know if it made it into my notes to that point. The character, I believe it's his best friend in the comics, is also African American, but was changed to be a white character in the films so that they could be sure that people didn't think that it was a film that was only meant for Black audiences and make sure that the general public would even go see it, which I think says a lot about how recently things were still like that, because this is within our lifetime. I found that very jarring when I read about it, especially when, like, you consider, I haven't seen The Meteor Man, so I can't speak to that, but I have seen Blank Man, and that is a goofy film to have only be the second time there's a superhero played by somebody who is African American hit theaters. So, like, just really kind of blew me away to realize that.
Yeah. Jim, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that one of the reasons that this movie kind of has been, at least in my experience, that has been forgotten is that a year later, Blade came out, which is another movie with an African American lead, another comic book movie. And to me, it's significantly better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that had Blade not come out, that maybe this movie would be remembered a little bit more fondly. But it did, and it and its sequel are significantly better. So, but yeah, it is an important stepping stone in that it was more culturally relevant because nobody saw Meteor Man, nobody talked about Meteor Man, nobody talked about Blank Man. Steel also came out around this time too with Shaq, and it bombed hard. So this was the first culturally impactful one, and even though the box office wasn't what they were like, people did see this movie in theaters, and it wasn't a huge movie, but it was, a moderately big movie when it came out.
There's some nice little sort of Easter eggs, well, not Easter eggs, references to Martin Sheen films in this, Mary, Apocalypse Now being one of them. Yeah, I just kind of wanted you to add to that because I thought that was a nice little fact, and I wouldn't have picked up on that. So yeah, can you go into a bit more detail there, please?
Yeah, there's a couple of different references to Apocalypse Now. There's a point where the clown in the film says, "I love the smell of burning asphalt in the morning," which of course is a reference to the famous "I love the smell of napalm in the morning" line from Apocalypse Now. As well as towards the end of the film, he actually looks at Martin Sheen's character and says to him that he wants him to start the apocalypse now, which might be one of the more heavy-handed and egregious references I've ever seen. But it's in the mindset I entered, watching this film with, I definitely did giggle at just how shameless that was.
Yeah, I thought it was really, like I say, a nice little moment. Little picking up on these things, I think, is a good reason to do these podcasts because you pick up on those little nuances and little references there. So that I thought was cool. And if we've missed any, again, please stick them in the comments or drop us a message because there's probably a lot more to Spawn than we are because we're just kind of ripping into it here. So if there's any Spawn fans that want to hate on us, please do feel free. I'm just telling everybody to hate on us, Mary, today. And Jim, we brought Jim into this sort of hate vest.
Yeah, we've come in with a "come at me, bro" attitude to this film. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And normally it's me just doing that to the films you pick. So whereas I kind of like Spawn. I'm not gonna lie. I want to put you on the spot, both of you. Can you name me a favorite track from the soundtrack? Mine was Filter and the Crystal Method with Trip Like I Do, and kind of that's how I became a fan of the band Filter. I've worked with Richard Patrick a couple of times as well. Fantastic band, very underrated in the shadow of Nine Inch Nails, I believe. But yeah, do you guys have a favorite soundtrack, favorite track from the film, and why?
Yeah, I always appreciate Incubus, so
Yeah,
I'll go
man,
with that.
absolutely. Brandon Boyd is a lovely man. No, I feel like I'm like just name dropping, but yeah, Brandon Boyd is lovely, and yeah, Incubus, great
You're
band.
so cool because you hang out with rock stars. We know.
Yeah, fantastic band. Mary, go on.
Well, I definitely like the Filter song quite a bit as well, but I also do really like the Manson track. Was it "Long Hard Road Out of
Yes,
Hell"?
yeah.
There, I don't know, that one just hits for me. So,
Absolutely. Sneaker Pimp's very underrated. But little
mhm.
fact, not that it's not very, very common. Chris Corner from the Sneaker Pimps went on to form IMX, who are now one of the bigger sort of goth industrial bands in the world. But Sneaker Pimps was formed in Middlesbrough, which is only an hour away from where I am. Middlesbrough's a very sort of small industrial northern town. But yeah, little factoid there for the
I
UK
was just listening to them this morning, so
There
now
you
I
go,
know
you see.
something new.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. Chris Corners from Middlesbrough, and yes, I love that too. Manson just kind of I read an interview with him where he just completely deletes Sneaker Pimp's involvement. He's like, they begged us to be on the track, and then Sneaker Pimps were like, we didn't think it was actually that good, so we just wanted to we wanted to make it better. So you've got these two very contrasting stories of how that track came to be.
I do find it interesting that pretty much every track on the soundtrack is it's not like a single group. They're all collaborations
Yeah.
between different groups, which I found kind of unusual when I was looking at it, because usually you expect it to, maybe have some collaborations, but usually just be like this song by this band, this song
Yeah.
by this band kind of a thing. So I found that unique.
I think it was very much of the time as well. I mean, obviously, the time we were growing up, you had this, new metal was a big thing. Anything crossover was very popular from what I remember, from sort of the 90s into the 2000s. So it was very much a trendy thing to do to mix and remix stuff. So I thought it was quite forward thinking, but then there was so many albums. End of Days, I think, did the same thing as well. So many albums that mixed hip hop, electronic music, metal.
We should do one of these days an episode where we just talk about all of our favorite soundtracks, because it's like I feel like Queen of the Damned is another not very good movie with a great soundtrack. There's like
Absolutely.
quite a few soundtracks from that era that are pretty awesome.
Yeah. Jim, have you got a favorite movie soundtrack for a terrible film?
I couldn't tell you one from a terrible film, but I feel like a film that has a lot in common with this one that has another great soundtrack is The Crow.
Ah, yes, of
Mm.
course, of course. We're pretty cliche as a podcast covering spooky films. We haven't done The Crow yet, have we? The original Crow, but
I've
I
I've
think
been saving it for when people start paying attention to
yeah,
us.
yeah. If that ever happens, we'll do The Crow. There's an incentive for a couple more people to watch anyway. All right, guys, we'll do the roundup then. This is the admin bit. My favorite scene is the CGI scene again because it's so bad. I believe, and I didn't write this down. I believe that's due to budgetary constraints. The reason the devil CGI scene is so bad. There's also notably British actor Nicole Williamson is the guy that comes up with Spawn, and Spawn rescues in that scene. I know he's kind of the mentor for Spawn through the whole thing. For me, that's really the standout scene because it's so Spawn's fighting these other terrible CGI mini Spawns, and it's so bad, but it just is burned into your memory, right? No pun intended. What I mean, I'm not going to assume that's either of your favorite scenes, but I can't think of one that, apart from maybe the pizza and John Leguizamo as the clown or the Violator, that really stands out. But that CGI scene, I don't know. Jim, have you got any thoughts on that? And then we'll go to Mary.
I don't know if you can call them scenes, but I mean, I do appreciate the shots of Spawn standing up on high buildings with his
Yeah,
cape just flowing. I just think those look really cool.
yeah. The brooding Spawn. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mary.
I really enjoy the scene towards the end. He spawns on a motorcycle and he kind of turns into this big spike, and the clown's driving the semi truck and doesn't bother slowing down at all and just rams into it and explodes, and then just stiffly flies out of the explosion being like, I'll see you at the house. Like, I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my life is at the bizarreness of that scene. So I think that's the one that just kind of has stuck with me the most.
Favorite performer then? I mean, Michael J. White, I do like. It's difficult to carry off terrible CGI Spawn, but I mean, it's got to be John Leguizamo for commitment, right? Like, Jim, your thoughts on favorite performer and why?
I mean, it was John Leguizamo. Although I feel like we need to give a shout out to Martin Sheen for chewing scenery because he just leaned into just totally goofy evil.
That's true.
I just really wish that they gave him something more to do because the only terrible thing he did was kill Al Simmons, who's a professional assassin. It's like, could you have done anything else worse in this movie, given him, something?
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, John Leguizamo just threw himself into this role in a way that he deserved a better movie.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Mary, your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think John Leguizamo is the standout performance in this. I will say the only other terrible thing Martin Sheen got to do was using his poor scorpion's terrarium as an ashtray, which I think is just a dick move.
Yeah. What a
But
dick,
yeah,
Martin
it's like
Sheen.
I wish he'd had more of a chance to chew up the scenery as well, because he really, it was at the point where it's like every time he turned up, I was kind of like almost forgot he had been in the movie,
Yeah.
because he was not in it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Props to Martin Sheen for chewing scenery, as Jim said. Fantastic. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure we've covered most everything from the facts. Is there anything else, Mary, from your research that you think is worth bringing in? I think we've
You
got
know,
most of it.
I think we covered most of the big stuff. The one thing I want to mention, just because it was kind of funny, is I read that they considered originally having Edward Norton play the part of Terry Fitzgerald, but when I read that, I had a brain dead moment and thought that it was Graham Norton for about half a minute and thought that was the weirdest casting choice ever until I realized what I'd actually just thought through. But I mean, and the only other thing I found interesting was that originally Alex Proyas was considered to direct this film, but went to do Dark City instead, which was probably a very good call because
Yeah.
Dark City is a much better film. So I did find that interesting, but I also wonder if this would have been a better film had he stuck with it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Go and check out our review of Dark City, the very first episode, Mary, which doesn't feature any of our faces. I think I just did wall to wall editing on that one. So,
we were shy.
But Jim, as the special guest, having revisited Spawn, anything to add that you would like to say about the film before we do our additional admin and Mary tells us what we're doing next and where people can find us? Jim, anything to add on Spawn or anything else?
Well, I mean, I just want to agree with Mary that I think that Alex Proyas would have brought a lot more to this movie. I think one of the things that was lacking in this that wasn't brought up was it really didn't have much style to it. It was kind of functional, and yeah, I would have appreciated that. But I also just want to apologize to anyone who's a fan of this film. I wasn't trying to be hard on it. I would love to, really appreciate something about this film, but I just couldn't find anything.
Well, that's what we bring you here for, and that's what we do this for, Jim. I think that I really like the film because I like Spawn and I love the soundtrack, but actually I like the film because I like the character of Spawn and because I like the soundtrack. When I went back and watched this, those are the reasons why the film itself, I was like, well, I'm never getting those hours back, and I'm pretty sure I felt like that all of the other times I watched it. But I guess you want something to be good each time, and you remember,
Yeah.
no, this is terrible. So Mary, we've covered Spawn. What are we doing next? And I guess it remains to be seen whether Jim will be joining us again. I don't want to put him under that pressure on record, but Jim,
join us.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. You'll be viewed by maybe 10 people. Those cheekbones and that wonderful silver fox hair of yours. So if you want to come back and hang out, feel free. But Mary, what are we doing next? We'll be in November by that time.
Yeah. So for November, we were going to be taking a look at the new Frankenstein film that Guillermo del Toro did, and see how just, awesomely atmospheric and horny that's probably going to be. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, definitely, Jim, if you want to come back, you are hired. So
Well, thank you. Yeah, I had a really good time, so I'd love to come back sometime.
He's got to say that. He's on record. But no, it's been a pleasure. We always say these are great for us just to catch up because obviously we're all in different places and different bits of the world. So thank you to anybody that comes and checks us out because it is a great excuse for us to catch up and talk about films. Jim, you look like you've got something to say, or that may just be you smoldering. Are you smoldering? You're smoldering.
I'm just smoldering over here. Yeah, I have nothing to bring. Nothing to say.
I do love it. I do love it when you smolder. Mary, where can people find us if they want to check us out?
Right. So if you do want to get in touch with us, you can email us at morbidmoviespod@gmail.com. We are on Instagram at Morbid Movies Podcast, on Twitter at Morbid Movies Pod, on TikTok at morbid.movies.pod, or on Blue Sky at Morbid Movies. And I think out of all of those, we are the most active on Blue Sky, but you can reach us at any one of those and we will get the message eventually.
Yeah,
So.
Mary is the one that does the social media, thankfully, because I have zero time. I greatly appreciate, and I just want to say that on record, I greatly appreciate your time and attention to that, Mary. We're going to put Jim on the spot now. We haven't at all prepared him for this because we basically just said the only things we do are the favorite, like rigidly are the favorite performer and the favorite scene. But actually, we have an ending where we say a phrase. What do we say, Mary? And we're going to get Jim to do it at the end. We're going to give him some. We're gonna explain the ending, and then we're going to give Jim some time to build atmosphere, and then he's going to smolder, and then he's going to say it. So what do we want Jim to say, Mary?
So, yeah, when we sign off, we say keep it spooky. So now that we've put you on the spot,
Yeah, Jim, I want you to look dead in the camera. I want you to take a pause. I want you to purse your lips. I want you to smolder with those great cheekbones and wonderful, wonderful hair, and say keep it spooky. No pressure. Take it away.
All right, let me collect myself here. Keep it spooky.
Amazing. Amazing.
yes.
See you later, guys. Thank you so much.